Service. This is Easy Boomer. It's my sports camera and unicycle, thanks to which I move faster. In a video of less than 15 minutes, I want to show you a place so that you can decide whether you like it and whether it is worth visiting. Or maybe you expected something different and a trip here is a waste of time. Today, the so-called must-see in Gdańsk in the north of Poland. Let's go. We will start with a view of the main railway station building, the one on the right, and the Central Hotel on the left, where the brewery is located. Now I will speed up the film so that we can go to the beginning of our actual walk through the main town without wasting any time. We will start with the Upland Gate, which was the main entrance to the city in the Middle Ages. And here we are in front of the Upland Gate. Its upper story is decorated with a heraldic frieze with 3 coats of arms, the Kingdom of Poland in the middle, Gdańsk on the right, and Royal Prussia on the left. We pass the gate on the right and head towards Dluga Street. First, however, on our right hand we see the building of the torture house, a former place of torture and prison, now a museum. On the left, we have the coal market and the Wybrzeze Theatre visible in the background. In front of us is the brick manor of the Brotherhood of St. George, and we are approaching the Golden Gate, currently, in September 2023 under renovation, and through it we lead to Dluga Street. It's morning, a weekday, so there aren't many people there yet. However, this is the most representative street in Gdańsk and crowds can be expected here during the season. There are cafes and restaurants on both sides, and in front of us is a view of the main town hall. If you turn right here, after about 300 meters you will reach the Shakespeare Theatre. However, we continue along Dluga Street. In a moment, we will look to the left to see a piece of St. Mary's Basilica, which is the largest brick church in Europe. Oh, you can see it a bit there now. Don't worry, we'll see it up close. We head past the town hall towards the Neptune fountain and the impressive building, Artus Court. The sun is reflecting in the windows of the tenement houses because it is still quite early in the morning. And here before us is the fountain, the Artus Court, and there are also pigeons, an indispensable element of the Gdańsk landscape. There are museums in both the City Hall building we passed earlier and in the Artus Court. Now, in a small loop, we have come even closer to the fountain, and in a moment we turn around and head in the same direction as before. In front of us are the arches of the Green Gate, which will lead us to the Motława River. There are still restaurants and cafes on both the right and left hand. As I announced, we are now passing through the Green Gate to the Motława River, quite old tenement houses on the right and new ones on the left, built only a few years ago. On the right, in the distance, there are former granaries and water equipment rentals. In a moment, you will see a characteristic view of Gdansk with the crane, a port crane, and unfortunately, you can see that the waterfront is being renovated, which will block some of our views. When we drive along the Motława River, we will unfortunately have to see a fence on the right-hand side. Anyway, all the tenement houses on the left are old tenement houses, and those on the right, on the other side of the Motława, are new tenement houses built only a few years ago. Here, also in the season, the entire so-called longshore is full of residents and tourists. Cafes and restaurants are bursting at the seams. In a moment, we will turn left into Mariacka Street, and we will once again have a view of St. Mary's Basilica, which is located at the end of the street. The street itself is paved, and on the right and left sides there are very characteristic lintels and the so-called gargoyles connected to the gutters, which spit out water during rain. St. Mary's Basilica is becoming more and more visible, and we will pass by it later. There are plenty of workshops and jewelry stores on Mariacka Street, mainly selling the famous Gdansk amber, but there are also cafes and restaurants. We are now passing along the walls of St. Mary's Church, and in a moment we will take a look at it from the other side of the street. I had to record this fragment of the film on another day with a wide-angle lens to fit this huge church. It is possible to climb the tower and view Gdansk from above. Next to the church, there is the so-called Royal Chapel on the right, and on the left there is a fountain with 4 lions. We are now driving along St. Spirit Street again towards the Motława River. It's a bit of a combination of a street and a promenade. There is also no shortage of restaurants and cafes here, as well as residents and tourists during the season. We will again use the gate and the recently built footbridge to cross the Motława River to the relatively recently built tenement houses that I mentioned earlier. But also from the second side, we will have an interesting view of the side we were traveling before, including the famous Gdansk crane. On the left side there is a crane, and in front of it the Maritime Museum and the Soldeck ship, which has been part of the museum for several decades. We are on the so-called Granary Island. There are also many restaurants, cafes, and hotels. And we take the footbridge back to the long shore and turn right. we will pass the crane and see the rest of the city. Unfortunately, due to this renovation, part of the view is blocked by fences, so I will speed up this video a bit so as not to waste time looking at the fence up close. And here we can also see the Soldeck Museum ship. Here is a hotel and a fish restaurant. Another restaurant, and in a moment you will see a galleon, a ship dating back to the Middle Ages. You can take a trip and sail along it for several dozen minutes. On the left, there is so-called Targ Rakowy. There are also restaurants and cafes, and we will turn right next to a tower. In a moment, straight ahead, we will see the Philharmonic building on the other side of the Motława River and an observation wheel from which we can admire Gdańsk. There is a large sign, Gdańsk, near which tourists especially like to take photos. Here on the left we see a brick building, and the next one, plastered, houses the oldest restaurant in Gdańsk. In the meantime, we will use the footbridge again and go for a moment to the other side of the Motława River, where there is the Philharmonic Hall, which I mentioned earlier, and the Gdańsk sign, where tourists like to take photos. There is also an observation wheel, one of the tourist attractions. This is what it all looks like up close. And here is another cruise ship in the form of a medieval galleon. We will turn right because I would like to show you another interesting building with such unusual architecture. It is a building of the World War II Museum. Oh, we can already see the red elements that are starting to emerge between the trees, and this is the building of the World War II Museum. We made it within 15 minutes, and I hope this video will be helpful to you and will allow you to decide whether it is worth visiting Gdańsk. Thank you very much for riding with me, and see you next time.